My name is Ed Nardi, Chair of the Natural Resources Commission, and I am calling this public meeting to order at 7 p.m. Tonight's NRC meeting will be a hybrid in person. We have a microphone set up at the commission's table, and plans will be projected through the TV monitor. If you are presenting via Zoom, please turn on your audio and microphone when it is time for you to speak. Following the presentation by the petitioner and questions from the commission, members of the public will have the opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment. Please identify yourself with name and address for the record. You can also raise your hand from your phone by dialing *9 and use *6 to unmute. All video screens will be turned off with the exception of any commissioners attending virtually and the current petitioner. Once the commission has acted on the application, the petitioner is free to leave the meeting. In the event of any technical difficulties, all matters on the agenda that have not been heard will be automatically continued to September 20th meeting. Please note that the meeting is being recorded. At this time, I would ask the commissioners to introduce themselves. Gary?
Hi, Gary Kleiman.
And Sarah?
Sarah Grimwood.
Thank you. All right, so first item on the agenda is a public comment period of 10 minutes, allocating no more than 2 minutes per speaker. And so is there anybody would like to have a public comment? And again, they're limited to things that are not on the agenda this evening. I do not see any. All right, so we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the approval of meeting minutes of May 17th, 2023 and June 7th, 2023. I believe I had a very minor comment, Karen, for you on the May 17th. Thank you. Gary or Sarah, any comments?
I had no comments. They looked great.
Yeah.
Agree.
Okay, they always do. Thank you, Karen. All right, with that, if I could have a motion on the meeting minutes?
Yeah, I move that we accept as written, well, with the minor correction that Ed provided, to the meeting minutes of May 17th and June 7th, 2023.
Second.
Thank you, Sarah, and we'll take the vote. Gary?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. All right, any general comments from the commissioners this evening?
Not for me.
All right.
Nope.
All right, thank you. Director's update.
So a couple of things for you. The conservation crew has finished up for the season. It was another short season this year. We still have Will, our land manager, and he's working with volunteers to keep the conservation land management effort going. Our ranger is out. She broke her leg.
Oh.
Yeah, she slipped off a coir log at White Pond, working on some restoration out there. Yeah.
When did that happen?
2 weeks ago.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so
that's
it's
unfortunate.
not a terrible break.
Yeah.
But she is in a brace, and September 5th we'll learn whether when she can come back. Conservation land improvements at the old rifle range. The Trails Committee Chair Bob White and other trail stewards have been working on historical signage for the old rifle range, the rifle range target butts, and the information on the raising and the lowering of the targets that used to be an actual training grounds during the before the First World War. And so the targets are set at specific distances, those concrete structures. And so Bob White has really taken a great effort to clean those target butts up. He's put some retaining walls around them to kind of protect them from being further washed in, and he's developed some nice signage that is up there. And so when you get a chance, take a look at that. It looks really nice. Bert is working with the engineering department for survey design and permitting services for that section of very narrow trail at the old rifle range that we're looking to just widen so that we can pass 2 people comfortably. That's a project that Bert and engineering will be working on over the winter. West Concord Park, Gary, you'll be glad to know that the water bars of the Blue Jay Drive access were installed, and there was trail regrading for better outslope. So we hope that addresses the pretty bad gullying that we've been seeing out there. So when you're out there next, take a look and let us know how that's working. Punkatasset Preserve. This may be a repeat, but I don't think I mentioned this at last meeting. There were 5 new water bars installed by Eagle Scout Lincoln Green. That was part of his Scout project. And there's an invasives management workshop that's upcoming in, I think we'll have that in sort of mid-September. The Warner's Pond Dam removal preliminary design. We had the evaluation committee meet and review the proposal. I'm developing the contract now. I did receive approval from the town manager to award that to EA Engineering, and the neighborhood group discussion that we had been talking about holding in the first week of September to talk to the abutters and just kind of hear more information from them. That is postponed, and we'll look to see if we can schedule a date the following week. I think.
Yeah, that would be great.
It was just, they reached out and said it's just a tough week. It was
It's a busy week for a lot of people.
Labor Day,
School,
back to school.
Oh, yeah.
CPA applications, Bert is working on preparing the application for the Hillcrest Conservation Land. There are some dilapidated steps that were put in the 80s, is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
As part of an Eagle Scout project that need to be replaced. So this application will be for survey design, permitting and cost estimates, and then the plan would be to go back next year for CPA funding to construct. And I'm working on another Haywood Meadow wall replacement project.
Okay.
There's one more down by Millbrook that is actually sort of undercutting the sidewalk a little bit. So we'll see if we can get the funding and then pass that off to Public Works to implement that. And then there's a possible project at the Barrett Farmhouse. There's, as you recall, the farmhouse has 2 units for the farmers there, and one of the units is a 1-bedroom. And the farmer is looking to do a 1-bedroom addition. So we're looking to see if we can get CPA funds to do that. There are other housing initiatives that the housing groups are interested in. So we may look at other opportunities, perhaps ARPA funding, perhaps capital. We're still trying to work that out. The applications for CPA are due September 8th.
Wow,
So
that's coming right up.
it is coming right up. So we'll figure that out hopefully this week. Ag Day is September 9th between 10 and 2, and Natural Resources will table again with the Concord Land Trust. And the Art Ramble was installed at the town forest this weekend and will run through November. So I will be going out there to check that out. I haven't had an opportunity yet this week to do that. That's it for me.
Thank you. That is plenty. That's a full list. Appreciate that.
Sure.
All right, so I think we've got some continuances. We've got, the first one up is certainly for DEP file 1371634 through September 20th. Gary, could I have a motion on that to continue that one?
Sure. I move that we continue to September 30th without discussion. Dartmouth Group, 1024 Main Street, DEP file number 1371634.
Second.
Thank you, Sarah. And the vote, Gary?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. Moving on to the next continuance, that is to be opened and continued to September 20th.
Sure.
Thank
So
you.
I move that we open and continue to September 20th, 2023 without discussion. DEP file number 1371652, 256 Bedford Street.
Second.
All right, and the vote, Gary?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. And then lastly, we have one last one, which is to be continued to October 11th.
So I move that we open and continue to October 11th without discussion. 166 Commonwealth Avenue, it's DEP file number 1371643.
Second.
All right, and the vote again, Gary?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. All right, so now we'll move on to our continuances to be heard this evening. The first one up is Notice of intent, 311 Garfield Road, DEP file 137-1647.
Good evening, Commission members.
Good
I'm
evening.
Rich Kirby from LEC Environmental, and with me tonight, project landscape architect Tim Lee. This is a continuation of a public hearing for a project at 311 Garfield, where we are proposing to convert an old pump house into a studio space, along with some auxiliary use outdoor auxiliary use surrounding the studio space. At the last hearing, we presented the project. We got some comments from the commission. We got some comments from DEP. And since then, we've submitted revised plans to address all those comments. I'll share my screen now with the revised plans. So this is the first revised plan sheet. To recall the project with the commission, this is the existing pump house here that will be converted to a studio space. We have the existing single-family dwelling over to the right here in the plan view, and the septic system for that dwelling is located here within an old lawn area that's gotten overgrown, and we're looking to restore that lawn area and slightly expand it. We also have some overhead wires that we're proposing to put underground, working with Concord Light to that effort, and we're still chasing Concord Light for an answer as to whether or not that can be done. But to the extent it can be done, it will be done outside of the 25-foot no disturbance zone, which is located here. You can see the wetland flags all along here delineating the bordering vegetated wetland. So modifications, we provided some more specifics on the seed mixtures and management of the wetland buffer zone, which I'll get to in just a couple of minutes. We modified the pheno markers to stay on the 25 or outside the 25-foot no disturbance zone. We provided some specifics. Let me move this over here. With regard to the existing retaining wall along the northern extent of proposed work, we can talk about, we have notes on here, rebuild and raise the existing boulder wall up to the 50-foot buffer zone line, which is right here, max height to be 4 feet. There's a detail on sheet L1. And this portion of the wall will be left alone, only up to the 50-foot buffer zone line. The rest of the wall will just remain as is. Moving on to sheet L1, and just to sort of overview what's on this plan since we have it up. This letter A here corresponds to the legend letter A, that's the wetland mitigation area. This hatching area B is the sunny buffer zone mitigation area, which will be seeded with a conservation wildlife seed mix. And then we have letter C, which, bear with me here, is in this zone over here where it's a little shadier, and we specify a partially shaded area roadside seed mix. So diving into that restorative effort on sheet L1 a little more, let me zoom in here. One of the comments we got from DEP was, well, if you're going to manage and remove invasive plants from the BVW, that constitutes alteration. And we said, well, we have more than 5,000 square feet. Does that mean we have to go through the MEPA process and get an Army Corps permit and water quality cert for removing invasive plants within the BVW? And it was suggested that perhaps by removing a particular porcelain berry in this case, which is the dominant invasive plant on this site, maybe the porcelain berry covers 5 or 10 square feet, but the act of removing the porcelain berry and pulling the root from the ground, perhaps you're only altering 1 square foot of actual land, which of course is what the trigger is for alteration under Army Corps, which is water quality cert, which gets you to MEPA. So we went out there and evaluated the porcelain berry and determined that it's a roughly 6.25 ratio of square feet of plant removed per square foot of soil disturbed. We rounded down to roughly 5-to-1 ratio to be conservative. And you can see here that if we manage for invasive plants, this entire open meadow area, which is currently dominated by porcelain berry, The area is roughly 8,530 square feet. But if you do the 5-to-1 ratio, our actual alteration footprint gets down to roughly 1,750 square feet. And that is 1,700 square feet. Sorry, that's specified here in the area of invasive management in the BVW. And then our methodology for determining that ratio is all outlined here in note 2. So that's what we did. So the order of conditions, if the commission decides to grant us one, should grant or allow the alteration of 1,700 square feet of BVW alteration in the effort to manage 8,530 square feet of porcelainberry within the BVW. So I think that pretty much covers. Oh, we one of the comments from the staff was to modify the mowing schedule to, the start of the mowing schedule for the annual mowing would be later in the fall. I think it was November 1st, Delia and Bert had requested. So we made that change as well. And I think that covers it. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I know I just went through a lot of information pretty quickly, but I know the commission has a lot on their agenda. So I'll turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you, Rich. Appreciate that. And thank you for the kind of the walkthrough of those changes and revisions to date. And just wanted to confirm, Delia, you good with that analysis of the 1,700 square foot of affected area really versus the 8,500 total area?
Yeah.
Great. All right. Thank you for that. Other than that, I think the other revisions that you kind of were just walking through and checking the box seemed relatively straightforward. So thank you for that. I don't have any further questions. Sarah, please.
Were there also some Norway maples to come down?
Yes, that's right.
Thank you.
Thank you for remembering that. And I'm going to actually turn that question over to Tim Lee, because Tim went out to the site and evaluated the extent of Norway maples on the property. Tim, let me know where you want me to point, and I will. Is it this sheet or is it L2?
Yes, you can. There's a note actually right there, Rich.
Oh, here it is. Right.
Yeah, there's actually 3 Norway maples right there along the roadway or driveway that we identified for removal. We didn't identify any others in the areas that we could, we could actually get to. But those are the 3 that we have marked on the plan as for removal.
Great, thank you.
And it looks like there's also some burning bush to be removed as well.
Right.
And noted on the plan.
Thank you for that. And thank you, Sarah, for pointing that out. Gary, any comments?
No, looks good to me.
Okay, great. Any public comment regarding this application? Don't see any in the crowd. I see a hand up for Nathaniel. Is that inadvertent? I would.
That's the mouse.
Oh,
cursor.
so yeah.
That takes care of that hand. All right. So I think with that, I do believe we have a order of conditions prepared. I think, Gary, you have that one?
I think that's me. Is it?
Yeah, I think Sarah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry
Yep.
about that.
So
Yes.
I move that we close on 311 Garfield Road, DP file 1371647, and grant issue an NOI for order of conditions, with findings A, E, and C, standard conditions 1 through 20, and special conditions 21 through 59.
Thank you, Gary.
Yeah, sorry, second.
Thanks very much. And we'll take the vote. Gary,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
and I am an I as well. Thank you, Rich and Tim, and good luck with the project.
Thank you all very much. We look forward to receiving the order of conditions and meeting with Delia or Bert out at the site for the pre-construction meeting.
Great. Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too. All right, so the next project before us is a notice of intent. Nope, excuse me, it is not, it is a notice of intent for 1266 Monument Street, DEP file 137-1649.
Hi,
Good evening.
hello. You hear me all right, I'm assuming?
Yes.
All right, so hi, my name is Nathaniel. I'm with Stancy McNary. I'm here for 1266 Monument Street. So I'll put my screen up, but so I'll try to be brief, but based on what we discussed at the last meeting and comments that we got from staff, the changes are limited to adding invasives removal for the area that is behind the existing fence. So that's been specified on the plan and noted that it's going to be with hand removal and fully removed from the site. And other than that, we also added the Concord tree protection detail, which is on here now. And those were really the only two plan changes. So there's no need for me to go on about them. So I'll turn it back to the board, but if there's any questions or anything like that, I will take them.
Thank you, Nathaniel. Yep, I think that is correct. Those were the two issues. I think they're fairly straightforward and clear. I do not have any comments. Gary, Sarah?
No,
Any?
nothing else for me.
All right. Any public comment regarding this application? You see any? Okay. So I think with that, this time I'll get it right. I think, Gary, you've got this one. All right.
Yeah, so I move that we close and issue order of conditions under DEP file number 137-1649 for 1266 Monument Street with findings A and standard conditions 1 through 20 and special conditions 21 through 53.
Right, and the vote. Gary?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. Thank you,
Great.
Nathaniel.
Thank you very much.
Have a good evening. All right, moving on. This will be our first new application this evening, which is a request for determination of applicability. 1024 Main Street, RDA file 23-10.
How you doing? I guess.
Yeah, sure, come on up.
The old-fashioned way, I guess.
Yeah, why not? You're here.
My name is Paul Dusnap with Dusnap Engineering. I have Dave Llewellyn with me from Comcast.
Good evening.
Does everybody have a copy of the plan that I submitted with the packet? Okay,
I can put it up on the screen.
great deal, you think?
What are you doing out there, Concord?
So we have a damage cable. We've been in front of the commission before. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
you recall. We have another damaged cable out there at building 19. Runs from a lockbox on as you're looking at you're on the right side of building 19, says lockbox, continues along the rear of the building over to the other two lockboxes between buildings 19 and 20. So it's a direct buried cable. They can get more involved with the jacket of the wire type and so forth, but we're looking to put a 4-inch conduit in the ground. Put a wire into that conduit. That way, hopefully it solves any, future problems way down the line.
Gotcha. Well, I appreciate clarifying that too, because I thought there was maybe a conduit there and the conduit got crushed, but it's just direct burial at this point.
And I think that's like the whole.
Most of the entire complex is direct buried. That's just how they did it back when it was installed, probably in the 80s, roughly.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And these things happen because the jacket wears out over time, or
Correct.
or just settles and stretches
Breaks
it, or
down over time, water gets in there and
Yeah.
deteriorates the cable, and then we get a service call and, it's direct buried, so we can't just replace it because of the resource area. So that's why we're here today to get permission to do it.
Yeah, is there thought about, because this isn't the first time this has happened, is there thought about just doing an overall replacement of the direct buried cable so that you don't have the service or the Concord Green doesn't have the service interruptions?
They did kind of look at that, but you know, it's really based on customer issues with their lines. If there's really nothing wrong with those lines, that, you know, the thought is, you know, we're not gonna replace it, and it could last for who knows how long. So there's really no long-term plan to go in there to, you know, blanket the entire complex and replace all the drops, because, you know, some of them could last, you know, another 20 years or so. We really don't know.
If it ain't broke.
Right.
Kind of, yeah, you're right.
Okay.
You're right.
Right, it just, I mean, from the conversations that we've had,
Right.
when it happens,
Yes.
it puts people at a big disadvantage, so,
Exactly.
but no, I understand that.
Yep.
If it ain't broke.
And-
concept.
And obviously, you know, the simple preference is you go around the other side, right away from the resource area. But if you could just give us and everyone just 10 seconds why that is not feasible.
So if we were to come around the other side, it
Mhm.
would be a major disruption to all of the tenants in that building, because the entire cable plant would have to be reconfigured to have the cable come into the front of the building now, and we would have to go into all the units and rewire all the units also. So we would be removing sheetrock and fishing wires to the walls. It would be a major disruption.
Sounds like it. All right.
And did you receive that email
Yeah,
response?
yeah.
Okay, because I put an email response.
No, I appreciate it. I just wanted to get, just as part of the public comment, that's all, in terms of, you know, why are we so
Mhm.
close to the resource area? And then just last question for me, obviously, this doesn't have to be at a great depth, right, in terms of the proposed conduit and cable. Just curious, how deep do you go down to place that?
Typically, we go 2 feet to the top of the pipe.
Oh, really?
So that way there, if, you know, if the landscaper come in and was planting shrubs or something along that line, the chances of them of striking that conduit, now it's gonna be in a conduit. So the chances of damaging that are, you know, are minimal because
Yeah.
of the depth and now in the pipe.
Okay, and how would you trench it? Is that a ditch witch, or how do you handle the trenching for that?
A lot of it's probably gonna be hand digging.
Yeah.
Or a small machine, depending upon what the, you know, the area in the rail that.
Yeah, they'll use a trench bucket. So it'll be the smallest bucket they have just to get in there. Place, I believe a 6-inch bucket they should have.
Right, yeah, why move is, you don't have to
Well,
move
I
much,
gave-
try not to move.
Once you get into the rear of those buildings, if it's tight, they'll hand dig.
Yeah, because a couple
It is,
conditions
yeah.
look
Pretty tight.
pretty tight,
Yeah.
right?
And we have to hand dig around the other utilities anyway because of the dig safe law.
Yeah. Okay,
And we will show the straw wattles and they'll do a pre-construction meeting with Ellie. We can notify you.
okay.
Well, that's
Thank
actually
you.
my one question, which is that, I mean, so there will be straw wattles on the outside of any access, you know, if you're bringing a Bobcat or something like that back there, it'll be inside, all of the access will be inside the straw wattles or away
Right.
from the resource area, right?
Mhm.
But it
Okay.
does look tight. It doesn't look like you're gonna be able to get something in there at that, you know, 17-foot
A
corner.
very small machine.
Yeah.
There's some slope to it as well.
Yeah, you can see it grade off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sarah, any comments? Are you good? You good?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Okay. Any public comment regarding the work at 1024 Main Street? Okay, not hearing anything. I think we do have a staff recommendation. Sarah, would you want to take that?
Gary, I think you were going to take that one.
Sure.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
move that we issue a negative determination number 3 with the following conditions. Number 1, a pre-construction conference will be held with DNR staff prior to commencement of work. And 3, after the project has been completed, applicant shall, I don't know what 2 was, but 3, after the project has been completed, the applicant shall submit a letter to NRC stating that all work has been conducted in accordance with all conditions of this determination of applicability. Any changes from the RDA shall be described. So maybe that's only 2 conditions.
All right, 2 conditions, yeah.
I second.
Thank you, Sarah. Take the vote. Gary,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
and I am an I as well. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good luck with the project.
Thank you. Have a good-
Have a good one. All right. Let's see. Our next application this evening, 241 Barrett's Mill Road, DEP file 137-1651.
Hi,
Nathaniel?
that's me. Yeah, I
All
thought
right.
another one was before this. I'm ready to take it, but
It was, but it was continued.
oh, okay, that's fine. I'm ready anyway, so sorry about that. All right, so hi, my name is Nathaniel. I'm with Stancy McNary. I'm not sure if Angie is there in person or not.
Yes, she is.
Okay, great. Okay, cool. All right. So
You can come up if you like, or you're good. Okay.
okay.
You bet.
All right, so this is for the work at 241 Barris Mill Road. So it's off of Barris Mill Road. It's a single family house. And there's quite a few.
Can you zoom in, please?
Yep, no, I'm gonna, yeah, I'm just talking overall. So going from, I'll talk about the resource areas first. So there is a Spencer Brook, which is a perennial stream, runs along the western side of the site. So that is a perennial stream. So there's a 200-foot riverfront area on this site, which takes up much of the lot. There's also a BVW associated with it. And I'm hovering over the 100-foot buffer zone right now. And there's also bordering land subject to flooding, which comes in very close to the house right here. So overall, the project is to do renovations to their backyard, most of those being directly behind the house. So everything that is right behind the house, all the hardscape and everything that they're putting in. So it's construction of patios and walkways. And that's all going to be directly behind the house. And that's only within the outer 100-foot riverfront area. And so there's existing patios, walkways, and whatnot. They're getting taken out and new ones are getting put in. So I'll try to show the extent of them, but pretty much right here is the proposed patio. So that's going to be the hardscape. And then the walkway, which was a stepping path, is replaced with another stepping path. So it's pervious. And although a portion of this is within the floodplain, the BLSF, prior to submitting this, the landscape architect had run a previous plan by the planning department, since the ZBA handles floodplain special permits. And their recommendation was that so it previously had small retaining walls on it. Their recommendation was that if those were taken out, if everything is built to grade, that this will not alter floodplain and not need a special permit. So the landscape architect put some extra consideration in, took those structures out, and proposed everything so that it would all be built to grade. So no changes in the floodplain are proposed, no loss of flood storage is proposed, so none is required to be replaced. So even though it takes up an area because it's not filling or removing storage, there's no compensatory work that's needed. So that's everything that's around the dwelling. Like I said, it's all in the outer 200-foot riverfront area. I believe impervious areas as a whole throughout the site are decreased, but regardless, there's a planting area right behind the hardscape, about 905 square feet. And that's the one that's just immediately behind the house. There's other areas around site on the landscape plan where they're doing plantings, which I'm sure Angie could talk about more. And then other than that, so the work that is within 100 feet of the wetland is for the two sheds. So one shed right here, sort of closer to the street, is partially within the 25-foot no disturb zone, and the entire thing is within the 50-foot buffer zone. So they're proposing to fully remove that and take it out and restore the underlying area with loam and seed it. And the reason for that is it is currently over existing lawn, as is much of the house. So a lot of the lawn goes up to the edge of the wetland. So it's just going to match all the conditions around it. And there's a silt area proposed around it for when that happens. And the other shed, which is outside the 25, but partially within the 50-foot no build zone, sits on a concrete slab in a sort of a large barn almost. And they're going to remove it, but they're going to leave the slab so they can minimize the earthwork. And they're going to build a new shed over the slab. So the darker line right here that I'm hovering over is the extent of the new shed, excuse me. And the slab will stay there, but because it had some overhangs and everything like that, the work is not getting any closer, and there's a very tiny reduction in the impervious area that's within 50 feet of the wetland. And again, the reason for that being that they wanted to reuse the slab that was there, and to minimize the earthwork also. And the staff comments that we got included adding tree protection to the tree that was right here, which we did, and there's also one on this tree outside limit of work. There's also mention of the arborvitae that are in front of where the shed is. So because the door to this shed is going to be located facing that, we're proposing to take them out, and the landscape plan notes that they'll be replaced at a 1-to-1 ratio with native plants. And that's on the landscape plan, which again, like if Angie wishes, you can talk more about it. And we sent in the waiver requests for the work within the 50-foot and the 25. And other than that, I think that does cover everything. So if there's any questions, I'll take them, but thank you.
Thank you, Nathaniel. Are you all good with the waiver requests? Okay, good. Angie, do you want to say anything, or you don't have to? I
don't have to, but for the record,
Sure.
Angie Burge from Angie Burge Landscape Design in Carlisle. I did prepare the landscape plan in addition to the planting plan. Again, in going back and forth with planning and engineering, we developed and kind of culled down our plan to make sure that we were trying to minimize any sort of soil disturbance, especially with the shed, understanding that that concrete slab has been there for not quite sure how long. The existing barn is in disrepair, and I think that's why the prior owners put up that row of arborvitaes that's very unnatural looking. The idea being minimize the structure, but again, keep the slab as is.
Okay, thank you. I think it's, again, thank you, Nathaniel. I think it's relatively straight away, if you will. Gary, Sarah, any comments?
No, it looks like a good project, reducing all the influences, so looks
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Any public comment regarding this application? All right, hearing none, I think, Gary?
Yep. So then I would move that we close an issue in order of conditions under DEP file number 1371651 for 241 Barrett's Mill Road, with standard conditions findings A through C, and then standard conditions 1 through 20, and special conditions 21 through 53.
Second.
Thank you, Sarah. And the vote, Gary,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
and I am an aye as well. Good luck with the project. Thank you,
All
Nathaniel.
right. Thank you very much. See you later.
Have a good evening. All right, our next application before us is for 103 Pilgrim Road, DEP file 137-1653. Please.
Do you have that? Can you bring it up?
Could I have your name and
Eric Ward. I'm Eric Ward. I'm the owner
of 103?
of 103 Pilgrim Road.
Welcome.
What I'm planning is, this is one of the original developer capes in that neighborhood. I'm planning a modest renovation, essentially an energy upgrade. To involve replacing the heating system with heat pumps and new insulation around the envelope roof and sides, new siding, new windows. And along with that, tear down a dilapidated porch and replace it with a slightly larger, I think the porch is about 200 square feet, replacing it with a larger porch of about 340 square feet. And also a stair to the backyard. The proposed work encroaches a little bit beyond the 100-foot buffer zone. And I think the total area is about 120 feet of new construction beyond the current porch. And so we're proposing to mitigate that with some native plantings in the what is currently lawn in the backyard.
Okay. And have you had dialogue with them in regard to some of the requirements?
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right, so obviously looking for, I think it's a section you're looking for, Bert, in terms of the cantilever portion of the
Yeah, so I
project.
think if you could add some sort of plan detail or something to demonstrate that the cantilever portion is gonna be above that flood zone elevation onto the
Okay,
plan.
yeah.
And then also, did you see the comments from DEP that I sent along to you?
Additional
Yeah.
explanation.
Yeah,
description
yeah,
of the
so just an
project.
additional narrative with a little bit more detail.
And I would think we'd require, if we're going into the 100 for mitigation purposes, right? There's a little, as you say, 120 feet plus or minus. So I think you'd kind of show us that and then show us the mitigation area, right?
Yeah,
as
it
well.
actually is showing on this.
Yeah.
this plan.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's up above.
It's these, but they should be replaced with natives.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
So-
flexible to, actually, this was proposed by, I went to Mahoney's and they proposed this as a native. range.
So it, see if you can get the Latin name
Okay.
and, something that's pinky pollen doesn't sound native.
All right.
But we can help you, you know.
And
you've
You're
got
looking for
it.
some hydrangeas. I mean, you
Yeah.
just, you know, I mean, there's oak leaf hydrangea is native.
And is the mitigation 1-for-1?
It is because it's in the outer buffer zone.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 130 square feet,
Plus or minus.
this is
Yeah.
112, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah, so if you could get, just when you're done with your final revision planning, exact square footage, exact mitigation and the areas you suggest with native plantings.
Okay.
All right, I don't think there's anything else popping up at me. Gary, Sarah?
no. Curious about that cantilever detail, but,
Yeah.
if Bert's following up on that.
Actually, that was suggested, the new addition extended probably 18 inches over the, or 12 inches over the 100-foot setback. And it was actually suggested by the building department, why don't you cantilever it? Because the framing is in that
Mhm.
direction anyway, to avoid a special permit and just stay out of the flood zone. And it's very easy to do.
Good, okay. Well, are you good continuing to September 20th for the revisions and clarifications, et cetera?
Okay, yeah,
Okay,
trying to get a building permit as soon as possible.
understand, just have to, I think it's a fairly small list here. So if you can, and I think meeting the September 20th, you'd have to have those revisions in a week from Friday. Correct?
Okay.
So you can be on schedule for the 20th.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you, Karen. Before we go, any public comment regarding 103 Pilgrim Road? You don't see anything on the? No hands up?
Nope.
All right. All right, so I think we're good to the 20th.
All right.
Thank you very much.
So, I just suggested that maybe we take, take some items out of order.
All right.
And so to jump to 460 Garfield and then to
460 Garfield.
Grady's Eagle Scout project.
It's
Are we,
7:45. I think we're okay. To going to Garfield, right? 7:45?
is that,
I think so.
yes,
Yep.
Evening, sir.
She's good with that? All right.
Is that all right?
Yeah, we're okay.
All right, excellent. That's some time. You guys got the plan up there? Do you guys need me to put the board up or?
No, we can pull that
Utilize the
up.
Plan on the video.
Yeah, we'll pull it up on the video.
All right, wonderful, excellent. We'll bring some audio visuals. Evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Kenneth Lanier, Cornerstone Land Associates, here with Mr. Bailey at 460 Garfield Road.
Evening.
We're here tonight for two reasons. The first is the certificate of compliance for an original order of conditions that was issued for this project back in, I believe it was 1983.
A little bit of time has
A
passed.
little bit of time. Mr. Bailey was unaware. He actually constructed the house himself, sent me some wonderful photographs of him and his family
Oh,
building
okay.
the original house. That was part of the farm beside it. Then broke that lot off of Mr. Bailey and Brigham broke it off for you. Yeah, for. Brigham's brother. Yes, Brigham.
Okay.
Yeah,
Part of Brigham Farm.
absolutely.
all right.
And we're here to obtain that certificate of compliance. For that original order, the house was constructed in the original spot. The septic system was slightly modified. I do have a copy of the original septic system plan that was used in the notice of intent application.
Mhm.
I believe you guys have that on record as well. One of the questions was, this particular plan didn't show the deck on the rear of the home. So there was concern that the deck was constructed outside of that original order. But we did have the original house plans that do show the deck. And Mr. Bailey was nice enough to provide me with some historical photos of his original house construction. I don't know if you can see it there in that corner, a little bit of evidence of the railing from the deck coming down off the rear of the home. And then Mr. Bailey also had copies of photographs showing the sonotubes in the rear of the dwelling, pre-prepared for the installation of that deck. And there was one other good one you sent me, Mr. Bailey. It was from the rear of the home. That actually, it actually showed the deck completely constructed on the rear of the house from 1984.
That's an 84 photograph.
Okay.
Yeah,
And,
I can provide the original if you.
no, thank you. And
It is.
So it's just, I know it was a concern brought up by the staff at the NRC, and I just wanted to make sure that we provided you guys with enough evidence to show that that was part of the original filing. It wasn't an after the fact thought, and it was constructed during the dwelling construction. And we're hoping that the commission will see fit to issue that certificate of compliance so that we could move forward with the new notice of intent.
okay, and I assume obviously that the deck was shown on the documents that went to the building department and got the building permit back in 83, 84.
84, yeah.
Okay. All right. You good with the documentation? Okay. All right. Thank you for that.
Yes, absolutely.
And just question mark, just quick pause.
Yep.
Are we going to be acting on that?
So we
COC?
take COCs after,
Oh, I'm sorry.
that's okay.
I
So,
apologize.
what if, that's okay,
Then-
we'll just move ahead with the
Okay,
project.
I didn't know, because typically you're not allowed to file a notice of intent if you haven't opened.
Right, we have it on the agenda to close,
Okay,
so
okay,
it'll
all right.
close tonight.
Perfect, and
You'll
I
get both
just,
permits at the same time.
all right, that's excellent. So let's move into the new notice of intent.
Mhm.
Thank you very much. Again, Kenneth Lania, Cornerstone Land Associates, representing Mr. Bailey this evening. Mr. Bailey's looking to expand, 15 by 26 addition off the right of his house. You can see it grade in the plan. And I also grade, oh, thank you, appreciate that. I also grade the existing deck, which we just showed the original construction of, due to the fact that it is in disrepair. So what we're hoping to do is reconstruct the deck in the exact same spot, utilizing the exact same prior poured sonotubes. We don't have to add any additional sonotubes. We don't have to do any earthwork in the back there. Just because right now, even I was a little bit nervous to actually stand up on that deck. So I give Mr. Bailey a lot of credit.
Mm.
It needs to come down. It needs to be repaired. It's a safety issue. So, in order to do this particular project, as you know, there's an intermittent stream that runs along the rear of the lot, actually bisects the rear and the front. We flagged the BVW along the base of the topography that slopes down from the rear of Mr. Bailey's house all the way to the wetland area. We did provide the BVW delineation forms. It was a combination of skunk cabbage, alder buckthorn, some cinnamon fern was in there. Did a couple of just boring samples sliding up the hill just to make sure there wasn't any creeping wetland, because there is some vegetation that is making its way up that lower section of the hill, but it definitely differentiates at the base of the topography where it drops right into the BVW area. Knowing Concord's regulations and trying to adhere to them, again, we did our best to provide some additional mitigation for doing work in the buffer zone. And I tried to label it so it'd be kind of I guess, clear. Oh, that doesn't work. That looks better. In the legend down here, you can see that what we had stated, tree to be removed was labeled in a dark situation, and you can see there were approximately 3 trees that are, I guess it'd be better.
Yeah.
So let's do this. I'm sorry. Tree to be protected. We'll try to remember this, 1 circle. Tree to be installed as mitigation, 2 circles. Dot tree to be removed. So we'll go back up here. And our goal here was these 3 trees that are fairly close to the location of the addition and also in the area where we're going to be providing rooftop runoff recharge for the new addition area, will be removed. One of those is within the 25 to 50, and 2 of those are within the 50 to 100. This tree here would be a tree to be protected, and will provide the tree protection as shown on the detail that was provided to me, very happily by your office. Also, a larger group of trees over here will also be protected. We're putting in erosion control, which would be hay bales and silt fence. And then as we can come back in here again, a protected tree in this location, close to the where the deck will be repaired and replaced in kind. And then these would be our mitigation trees. So we plant 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mitigation trees, 2 within the 50 to 25 and 3 within the 100 to 50. It already is serviced by an existing well that will remain unchanged. But due to the fact that Mr. Bailey's services for both gas and electric come in on this side of the house, there will have to be some utility work in here to reconnect the new electric line and also the new gas line so that we can relocate them on that same side of the house. Again, as mitigation for the additional impervious area that we're adding within the buffer zone, we are proposing to install 2 Caltech recharge 280 chambers, which will collect the roof runoff and recharge that into the ground. The remainder of the site remains unchanged. I know that there was a comment brought up and gratefully emailed to us by your staff that there's a newly constructed footbridge over the intermittent stream that was part of a historical path that was always used by Brigham Farm to access this particular property. We do have some pictures of it constructed new. It was not installed into the ground. It was just placed off of a couple of timbers. It's easily movable. It's not permanent. And we did this as a repair. Mr. Bailey says in kind, because as you can see, this was a historic photo showing that it was just a timber type crossing, and it was becoming, it was starting to fail and be unsafe to travel across. So
we purposely made it with the thought that it could be picked up by 4 people and moved out of the way should there be anything that was going on in the weather that was bringing extra. Not that it's ever happened.
Slow down or.
And yeah, in case there was some flow down, we could easily unblock anything that was in the way. But it's been part of the farm workings for forever. I don't think that you got it in time, but we have pictures that were taken during the Depression that of where you can see where the road, where the path went right across that stream.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
So it's not a new structure and it's pretty, but
it is nice.
but it certainly is not a new idea to make it fancy.
Now, I was hoping to be all excited for Mr. Bailey and try to come in here tonight and get this during one meeting. But sadly, even though I did everything I possibly could have, and I'm sure that the DEP is not very happy with the last voicemail I left with them. But they were unable to provide us with a file number.
Okay.
Also,
Yes.
even though I do have a copy of it here, they cashed Mr. Bailey's check on August 14th.
It's in the bank.
Well,
At the bank
this was at the.
And
So
yet
their note says that the fee is waiting to clear.
Well, that's.
I just checked it before the meeting.
Insult to injury there.
Yeah, it's, and it's a $42 check. I mean, it was August 14th. I don't understand what they're doing. I've left messages since last week. on the health
We'll have an
line.
order ready on the at
On
the
the
September
20th,
twentieth. There's no need for you to attend that meeting.
Okay.
It'll just be
Oh,
mailed.
excellent.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Right,
So if
because
there's
we
any
have
questions.
everything we need at this point.
I think so.
Yep.
So the only question I had, Delia,
Oh, wait, actually,
Yep.
Bert had a point about soil and material stockpiling.
Oh, yes, right. And that would be done out in this area, just outside of the 100-foot buffer zone.
it would be great if you could note that on the plan.
I absolutely can.
Okay,
Not a problem.
yep, just so
Yeah, we
contractors,
don't
anybody
wanna-
working out
yeah.
there know
We
where
don't
things
wanna
should
leave it
go
in
if you're
here.
not around or.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Just because there's not a ton of room in here.
Right.
So what's gonna happen is they're gonna be digging these utilities as well. So I actually work with Mr. Bailey's general contractor
Mhm.
on a considerable number of projects. Mr. Ortiz, I've already discussed with him that he has this area over here just in front of the tree. It's outside of the buffer. And while I'm out there, I'm gonna stake that line for him. So he'll know exactly where to stockpile the material.
Okay,
All right.
that'll be great. Lots.
So just add that to the plan. and then
Yes,
we'll
Yeah.
send it to you.
Not a problem.
And the only question would be mitigation is sufficient for the addition?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
it's good. This is more just tree and
Right.
et cetera.
Right.
All
Yeah,
right,
it's not and nice enough that where we're putting the addition, it's already kind of like an open flat area. So it's not a ton of disturbance in that area. It's already been kind of utilized by Mr. Bailey for some storage of materials, for prep building his walkway and that type of stuff. So it's ready to go.
and the trees are specified.
I did specify.
Okay, and you're good with those in terms of the typology, making sure they're native?
Say they were going to be. I apologize, but I can't read.
Red
that
oak
if
and
my-
red maple.
Yeah, I can't
Okay.
read that if my life
Yep.
depended on it. Sorry.
A little fuzzy as
Yeah.
well, so.
I bet I can put my glasses on and still not be able to read it, so.
All right, so without that order, without the number, so
I would
again,
request a continuance.
we can continuance, again, you shouldn't have to show up, we'll have an order of conditions ready to go.
Wonderful. All
All
right.
right.
I appreciate your time this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you all very much. Appreciate it.
Have a good evening. All right,
You ask if anybody.
Oh,
disagreed with
yes.
it, and they can-
yeah, Jeez,
This guy knows better than, we're all doing this.
Oh, you
for
did?
Watching them do it all.
thank you.
This guy's
I
better
was
than we
doing
are.
well until I tripped up here,
I
so.
apologize.
Any public comment regarding this application at 460 Garfield Road? Nope. All right, so what's the other one you want to take out of order?
Grady, for the Eagle Scout.
Please, come on up, Grady.
Hello,
How are you?
how are you? My name is Grady Flynn. Here on behalf of my own Eagle Scout project, the Robin's House.
Here's my take a picture of this grad mom.
Absolutely. Come on up, if you want to come up and get a better angle, please.
So, I apologize, I didn't share any materials ahead of time, but I have them on a computer, and if it's helpful, I can hit send on an email. I've already prepared.
Yeah,
if
just
you
send
want.
it to me.
Okay.
I'll pull it up.
So would it also be helpful if I gave a little refresher on what I'm doing?
Yeah, sure. Why don't you give us a 2-minute refresher on, just to bring everybody up to speed, both in public and the commission?
Yeah, so, what I'm working on is
Did you email it to me?
I did.
Okay, all right,
Um,
perfect. It'll come through in a
Okay.
second.
Yeah, it
Okay.
did go through. What I'm working on is a project, with the Robin's House. A museum I think is really important in, Concord, and my goal is to, just in general, raise up the image of African-American and anti-slavery history in Concord. I think that, we have, the history of the revolution, and we have a lot of really famous authors from Concord. And in our schools and in day-to-day talking and any tours we do, those are really paramount in how we consider the town and its history. But I personally believe that there's another side of this town's history that often gets overlooked, that I think is equally important and I think deserves more recognition. All the parts of my project sort of go in the direction of sort of raising up that history and the aspects of the history that are there. So what I'm asking of the Natural Resources Commission is as I'm sure you all are aware, in the Wright Woods Forest, Fairyland, that area, a lot of that land used to be owned by Brister and Fenda Freeman and their family. If you're not familiar, they were or Mr. Freeman was somebody who was an enslaved person, and he took his freedom during his service in the Revolutionary War. And his story is really about Black land ownership, especially after slavery. So he owned about an acre of land that is now part of Fairyland. And this design up here is what I'm hoping is going to go on a plaque that will sort of recognize that site. I'm aware that there's already a boulder recognizing that that site as well, but I think that this will go a long way into giving it even more visibility than it has. So one of the attachments I have is a map of the Fairyland area, and that's just sort of to give a sense of where I'm hoping that'll go.
For some reason, I think my screen.
There you go.
Yeah, my screen was frozen.
I see.
Yeah. Let's see.
So this is a diagram. Hopefully there's a third attachment, but if not, I could try.
Going down?
Yeah, sorry,
Okay.
it's quite small, but you can sort of see in that southwest corner, just off of Route 2, if you're coming from Lincoln into Concord on Route 2, you take a right. Second entrance to Fairyland on the right is where I'm hoping that this sign can go.
So that's the Harry Buyer entrance. Yeah.
And I want to say there's 3 trails coming off of there. Whatever it is, it's the leftmost one. You go about 1 step down that trail. I'm hoping that this sign I want to create can go right there on the right. And the idea of that is just that any visitors walking through are able to just in your face really access this history. Part of what's on the sign, my design for the design includes a QR code. Another aspect of my project is creating a set of audio excerpts read by high school students, because one of the bigger picture ideas of my project is also to raise awareness about African American and anti-slavery in this town among younger people. So they're all read by high school students, but additionally, it's a really accessible way to have audio excerpts. They're histories of stories told by African Americans from and in Concord. They're books written about these subjects and stuff like that, and they're stories that, in general that I've archived from or found in archives from the Robbins House, Concord Museum, and other sources. So that QR code is sort of a gateway to that database. So by having this sign here, you walk by and this history is really accessible to you. In terms of accessibility, I'm also hoping to include a Braille part of the plaque, and that's noted. Would you mind scrolling up to that so I could just point it out? Thank you so much. I think it should be above.
That's in
There
here.
you go.
Yeah,
So you have the little Braille in the corner, and that'll say QR code. The standard for Braille is to put it center below what you're trying to express. So that's below the QR code. And a lot of people who use Braille also rely on cell phones to interact in general. So once they can access that QR code, they can also access those audio excerpts. This text this sort of about 55 words of text here. That's a small anecdote about the area. That's sort of to draw you in, get you to use that QR code, sort of attract your attention as well. In the corner, you'll find the Robbins House's logo, which of course is my beneficiary and the group that I'm doing this project with. And as an aside, another sort of main point of this project is to raise up the profile of that museum as well. And they are part of the National Park Service African American Civil Rights Network, and that logo is also in the corner. At the top, there's just a title that says Mr. Freeman home site, Mr. Freeman's home site. So that's sort of what I'm hoping can happen, and I have some more technical details that I can go over as well.
Thank you. It sounds, again, continuing great project. Long time in coming in terms of raising awareness of the issue. So thank you for that. Yeah, I'd love to learn more about the details of the sign, right? Because it is an important issue. And so really, should be a quality sign as well, right?
Of course.
And should be
So-
enduring. So anyway, just wanted to hear your thoughts on what you would suggest for the sign.
Yeah, I was talking to Ms. Kay, who was really kind enough to share some of the sources that you've had for signage in the past that the Division and Commission of Natural Resources have done. And I did a little more research on my own just to figure out what I thought would be the best way of doing this. And as you say, it's really important that this endures and that it's not just something that's going to break down after a couple of years. So I want this to be a lasting impact on the town. So what the sort of idea I had is there's a printer called Voss Signs, as you shared with me. And I didn't include an image, but you might be familiar with a sign that already exists in Fairyland, which lists the conservation lands rules. It's on a 18 by 24 aluminum sign, which is backed by it has a wooden backing and is on a wood post in the ground as well. Thinking of a very similar format to that. In terms of the specific details, I can also pull up. And would you also mind scrolling down? I have a sort of mock-up sketches requested. I know it's not ideal on paper. Yeah.
Yep.
But you can sort of get a sense of the measurements I'm looking at, and I can explain it in words because it'll probably be easier to understand. Just give me one moment. Sorry. So the material itself is heavy gauge aluminum. The final design, I have a lot of red writing on my design that says sample, which is just to show that it's not the final design. Laurel Ambrose is a graphic designer that we're hoping to work with to get a designer's eye on it and make it something that really does attract your attention. And as I said, printed from Voss Signs. In terms of the sizing, you mentioned that you prefer it to be only as large as necessary. So what I'm proposing is 12 inches by 18 inches. I think the best way of doing it is vertical because that's similar to a lot of other signage that exists already in Fairyland. That's just what I've noticed. The mock-up I've drawn is horizontal, but it would just be a similar thing in a vertical format. I thought I'd leave it up to your discretion in case you had any idea. This drawing I've made, I know it's all conflicting, but this is a horizontal version. So you can get it's drawn to scale 1 foot to 1 inch, although now that it's on the screen, it doesn't really work so well. But it's drawn to scale so you can get a sense of how that sign would compare to the height of the post. Post would stick 4 feet above the ground, 2 feet below to make sure that it's half of the height of the post. It's not going to go anywhere. I'll purchase pressure treated wood from Concord Lumber to make a supportive structure that, in addition to that post, there will be attached to it a wooden frame that will hold that sign. Make sure it doesn't go anywhere. I'm not sure if this is stuff that people normally explain, but I'll go into it. The hole just 1 feet in diameter. Make sure to drive a few screws into the post ahead of time and use concrete. Driving screws into it will just allow the concrete to grip a little bit stronger. Below the concrete, a few inches of gravel for drainage, ensuring that the concrete slopes away from the posts so that to avoid pooling of water next to and rotting of the wood. And I'll cover it all up with some soil to make it look pretty, but I think the concrete will go a long way in making sure it stays where it's supposed to be. I will make sure to obtain a dig safe ticket ahead of time as well. And I don't know if you have a preference on this either, but use fast setting and not pre-mixed concrete. Just pour in the concrete, add water. That's kind of to do it. And I didn't mention that the post is 4 by 4, 6 feet because 4 feet above ground, 2 feet below. And the backing of wood will probably be about 1 to 2 inches thick. I think that's all the details that I had, pretty much.
Okay, thank you. That was a nice detailed overview. I appreciate that. So I guess the only question I had is, again, important moment in time, great educational. for a lot of people. And hopefully to learn more about it, as you say, through the QR code. And again, it's really the endurance of it, right? Because it's, you know, it is an important step. It's an important moment. So Delia, just from your experience on your aluminum signs that are out there, is it 10 years, 15 years? I don't know, obviously.
Yeah, I would say it's probably 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Because again, it's one of those things where we wanted to endure, right? So is there maybe a further thought that maybe it would step up to something that's more permanent, if you will, something like a brass plaque? QR codes might create problems with that, and certainly we respect budgets as well. But again, if it's something that's going to be there next year, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, may want to consider something that is a little bit more permanent, because even the wood post and the wood backing will only have X amount of life out there in the environment, right? Whether it's 10, 15 years. But again, just consideration.
So we had talked about a brass plaque in the beginning, and you had decided that that was not something that.
Yeah, it's something I did a lot of research into before deciding on aluminum. I think aluminum fits better with my budget. But I agree that it's important for longevity. And yeah, the aluminum seemed to be the best idea I had, as opposed to bronze or brass or wood. But I am open to other ideas.
So I wonder if some sort of a plaque, bronze or brass or something in a stone.
That's what I was thinking too, in
Yeah.
terms of just that, you know, never have to worry about a post rotting, the backing rotting, right, which is a wood backing, right? And again, it might just, you know, if it's a appropriate stone with whatever the sign is on it that can last, it'll be there for decades, right? You know, that's the hope and the goal. Then again, just, you know, food for consideration, if you will, because it is, as you say, an important moment.
Yeah.
Anyway, just if you, as you investigate
We
signage
can
and
talk
capacity,
offline
you know,
about
yeah.
just what materials are going to work and bring something back to the commission.
Okay, yeah,
All right.
great project. It's,
Yeah.
you know, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It's just trying to make sure and elevate it so that it is more permanent. That's all.
I appreciate it. Yeah. The only question I'll ask is, if you want me to come back in the future, do you think this will be possible at the closest September meeting? Because the only thing I'm working with is a deadline in terms of frost, and I want to make sure that I'm not trying to dig after the first frost.
Yeah.
Okay.
Appreciate that. Gary, Sarah, please, Gary.
I just one comment. I think it's terrific, great project. And the height, 4 feet, is that a standard height? Have you talked to anybody on Concord's Disability Commission about whether it should be, you know, maybe 3 feet for people in wheelchairs or something like that? It's just a question. I don't know what the standard height is. I mean, I understand I'm short. A lot of people are 6 feet. They don't want a sign down at the ground, but just something you might want to check in about.
Yeah, that's a really good insight. I appreciate it. That's not something I considered, but I'll have to do a little more research to figure out what the standard is there. I agree that that's a great idea.
Sarah, any
children,
comment?
well, I like Gary's comment, because thinking about children as well,
Yeah.
and educating them.
Yeah, good point. Thank you, guys. Any public comment regarding this, please?
I just wanted to say my name is Jen Turner. I'm the executive director of the Robbins House. So we have a large contingent of Robbins House people here tonight to support Grady, but we just wanted to also publicly say how proud we are of him and his project. He's done a really outstanding job. He spent so many hours and drafts, and he's just been an impressive young man, and we're really proud to have him as part of our organization. So just wanted to say that.
Yeah.
Thank you for that comment. I don't see anybody else necessarily. All right, well, certainly, you know, you guys can certainly talk offline, get some further suggestions or thoughts, and no reason why we perhaps couldn't wrap it up on the 20th.
Yeah, that would be super helpful. And thank you all so much for your time. And thank you for all of your extra time offline and everything.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a great project.
I really appreciate it.
you bet.
Thank you.
As do we. All right, so We're gonna spring back a little bit. I think we have one more application this evening,
Mhm.
right? 768, notice of intent for 768 Elm Street, which is DP file 137-1650.
Have it, up on drive.
If you guys want to do name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, so good evening, Kerry McCormick, Director of Development, Crosspoint Associates. With me tonight is Brian Butler with Oxbow Associates, our wetland science expert. Brandon Lee with Kelly Engineering, our civil engineer. And also online is Bess Maneva with Halverson, and our landscape architects.
Thank you.
So just a little background on the project and Crosspoint and who we are, so.
Do you want to drive?
Right. So, projects, that's just right click, or do I hit?
You know what? I'm sorry. I think it just,
Oh, it just,
went
the
into
cursor,
Zoom, went into Zoom a little bit. So let me just. All right.
Yeah, we
That's
see.
you wanna
the
be? Is that where you want to be?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
that was the introduction. So then, so just a little bit on Crosspoint Associates. So Crosspoint was founded in the late 80s. We're a commercial real estate company based locally in Newton, Massachusetts. We have a little over 3 million square feet under ownership and management throughout the Northeast. And one of our areas that we really specialize in is revitalizing kind of community-based centers. So that's kind of what the project is that we're proposing tonight. So we have a lot of expertise in that area. So we can flip to the third slide, so just to get everybody acclimated. So we're here before you tonight to review our notice of intent that we filed for 768 Elm Street. So that's kind of at the junction of Baker Ave, Route 2, and Elm Street there, adjacent to the newly permitted and approved Dunkin' Donuts. And then to the east would be the Best Western. And then our other abutter is really the Assabet River to the rear site. So it's the site's just under 5 acres and the majority of it to the rear is undeveloped at this time. So about half the site. Can you flip to the next one? So the paparazzi, which I probably believe that everyone is pretty familiar with, recently closed and probably not very happy about that. We understood it was very utilized location amongst the community. So unfortunately that their lease ended and the current owner of the property is not looking to revitalize and put a lot more money into it. So that's where they came to us. And so we have it under agreement to purchase the property. There's, a lot of things challenge with the site right now. So as you can see, almost the entire site is impervious. There's only a little bit of landscape areas, which isn't really even landscape, it's just kind of greenery and some weeds out front at this point in time. There's little or no stormwater. The stormwater management really just sheet flows to the back and goes down culverts, which Brandon will get into more detail on that. And then of course the septic system has totally failed, and it's been that way for a little bit and needs to be completely redone. So there's a lot of money capital that needed to go back into the property, and to try to turn that into, it just wasn't going to be feasible. So, so we're looking to propose kind of something a little bit different. The next slide. Yeah, so this is just a kind of black and white. This is a landscape plan, but so we're looking to do is it's a 8,000 square foot building now, 240 seats. What we're looking to do is raise the building, start obviously new landscape, new paving, new stormwater improvements, new septic and all that. So it's going to be a 4-tenant building. So we have outdoor seating, amenities. What else is new seating amenities for there's two proposed restaurants. We've been working with the town. We've had 2 meetings with the town to this date. We've been able to incorporate a significant number of their suggestions into the project. There's 143 parking spaces. We reduced the parking down to 115 parking spaces, so significantly reduced that. There's over 30% of impervious within the 100-foot buffer that's been reduced, and over a third of an acre of impervious over across the entire site, which our team will get into more detail then. So you'll see that there's actually, and Vesna will get into a lot more detail. She has a colored plan that will show a lot more detail on the plantings, but we've really gone to great length to add a lot of landscape, add trees for shade, to reduce the heat island effect wherever possible, for seating, outdoor seating, and whatnot. The stormwater improvements, you'll see when Brandon walks you through that there's going to be multiple areas of treatment that weren't there before. And then we've accommodated for restaurants with a new septic system, on-site septic system with grease traps individually for each restaurant use or potential restaurant use for the site. So, we kind of been working through the project for a while now, and I'm glad to be able to put this package in front of you. And hopefully you've seen it as quite a bit of an improvement to the site and where it is today. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ryan for the environment piece.
Yeah, as Kerry said, I think this is a easy marketing to compel you that it's a big improvement in the over existing conditions, which is kind of the objective of most of the applicable environmental regulations. This is just a overview because most of the drawings that are the official plans are cropped because the riverfront is so remote. So we show that we continue the riverfront, meaning, high water line from the 794 Elm Street project. So it just keeps on going as shown there. And the purple line that bisects the northerly part of that parking lot is the 200-foot riverfront area. Yeah. So it doesn't glance it, but it's a fairly minor component to the riverfront area. Then also the BVW is pretty well defined because the slope is pretty abrupt, and the parking lot is say around 125, and I think the elevation of the floodplain or the river flood, it's not official floodplain, but the floodplain containing the BVW is about 115, so nearly a 10-foot drop. So it's a pretty abrupt change. And once you go out of the wetlands and into the upland, then you get into the invasive species jungle that is kind of like the greatest hits from the MIPAG invasive species list. Knotweed, bittersweet, buckthorn, et cetera. Not a real surprise given the use of it. And I think you're all aware, but it was originally built as a Howard Johnson's in 1950-51, and the stormwater system reflects that vintage. So it's easy to Brendan will explain the improvements, but almost anything would be a magnanimous improvement in that regard. You can go to the next one, I think. There, let me see on last up. This just is a color version of the plan that was submitted with the resource area plan submitted with the original filing, but we just colored it up for display tonight. We'll be going through you can see the bioswales here and the stormwater management and features, and we already elaborated on the resource areas, so we can flip to the next one if you would. Oh, is that it? And yeah, just finally, this is our landscape. Yeah, oh yeah, it's right on the top. And we do have a colored up version of that. It may not be in this package, but it's, I think, somewhat self-evident that we've utilized or has utilized native plantings, particularly within the resource regulated areas, but largely throughout. There's no classic ornamental or particularly invasive species. It's all native species that are somewhat atypical for this kind of landscaping plan. But I think that is or should be appreciated, I hope, by the commission too. It's not just going to be a mow it, fertilize it to death, and stick new annual flowers in there every spring and then throw. I actually got a nice collection of flower pots from down over the hill there. I guess the hotel or something must have thrown all the sunflower plantings they did one year, and so I took them, pulled them out of there, took about 5-10 pounds of plastic and spared me from buying them for my own use. I think the next is it's the engineering section. Yeah. Brandon, take that.
Thank you. You have the existing slide there?
It's at the end. You want you mean, you want to use, Brian's in the front, you want to just flip up to Brian's, that version with the aerial?
Sure, it's fine.
Yeah, can we go to the front, all the way to the back, the front rather of
The front. You mean the?
Brian's, I think it's Brian's first slide. I want to go into the,
Oh, I'm sorry. This one?
one more.
one before. There we
Yeah,
go.
that one.
Second,
Does that
what
work?
you're looking for?
Yeah, that's fine. Just to see the existing site, the existing pavement, just, there's no stormwater management on site. Just sheet flows off the existing pavement. Everything drains to the north of the site, into the wetlands. They are concentrated within two locations, two paved, swales, one on the left side of the site and one kind of to the back right.
Around there, Brandon?
Yep, that's the one on the right, and then there's one on the left near the, yep, in that corner. And there's also the existing edge of pavement is, the closest point is 21 feet from the bordering vegetative wetlands. If you go over to the proposed, resource areas, yep. So for the proposed site, we will significantly improve the stormwater management on site. We've designed a stormwater management system that fully complies with Mass DEP stormwater management standards. Within the left portion of the site, the parking lot, that will drain into a bioretention swale. So we are proposing LIDs, low impact development. This is a bioretention swale that's 18 inches deep and 11 feet wide. And then it discharges through a flared end section with a riprap. This is the same location as the existing paved swale that overflows to the wetlands. And then here we have another subsurface recharge system that will pick up clean roof runoff from the building. All the roof drains will tie into this recharge system, and it will also outlet in the same location via flared end section. The rest of the building will connect to another recharge system shown in the dark blue. And then in the front parking lot, we have deep sump coated catch basins, as well as a proprietary water quality device. And these will drain via a pipe to the back and to the rear and outlet via the existing outlet. This outlet will be further than existing. It'll be outside the 25-foot no disturb. And then within the rear parking area, that will flow to this bioswale located in the back. Again, that's a similar size to the one in the front, 11 feet wide, 18 inches deep, but much longer. These have been sized to provide 1 inch of water quality volume. And then in this other corner of the building, this pavement will drain to a rain garden that will outlet via another flared end section and riprap. So the combination of all the proposed stormwater management upgrades will provide greater than 80% TSS removal, total suspended solids. There's also will be a significant reduction in impervious area on the site, a total of 16,818 square feet. This will help reduce the peak runoff from the site, in addition to the recharge systems. So with the proposed BMPs we're proposing, we will significantly improve water quality leaving the site, provide recharge, dedicated recharge volume that's greater than the DEP requirement, as well as reduce peak runoff from the site. Also note that we are pulling the pavement back from the existing conditions, where the existing limit was 21 feet. The new limit of pavement will be outside the 25-foot no disturb. The corner being here, The new edge of pavement is shown in the purple line. Kind of hard to see, but in the dark blue line at the back, that would be the existing edge of pavement. So within, all this bioswale here, this is all pavement that will be removed outside the 100-foot buffer zone, as well as in this location for the rain garden. That's pavement removed in the buffer zone, as well as the riverfront area. There's additional area pavement being moved here as well. So that's a net reduction of 7,761 square feet of pavement in the 100-foot buffer zone, and reduction of 4,173 square feet of pavement in the 200-foot riverfront area. The resource areas will be protected by erosion control line. That's shown in the red line. These are silt socks that will go along the entire rear of the site. We'll also have construction tracking pads, silt sacks within all the catch basins. Also, the septic system will be completely replaced. It's currently at the back of the site. Portion of it's within the 75-foot buffer zone, and that's the Board of Health regulations. That septic sewer has to be outside the 75-foot. So the new septic system is proposed to the front of the site. All the grease traps, septic tanks, and sewer manholes, those are all located outside the 75-foot buffer zone as well. That will flow to a pump station here, and it will be pumped via force main to the leaching field.
Can you show me where those where the septic system is on the chart? I'm not seeing it.
So the new septic system, so in the back for the restaurants, there'll be grease traps and as well as septic tanks. So there's a tank here. There's another tank here as well. And then a larger septic tank located here. And then will flow to a pump station located.
I'm not seeing your cursor is the issue, but I guess it's.
Because.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
We'll use the
Okay.
pointer.
So here,
Okay.
here. And then this is the
Yeah.
pump station here.
Okay.
And then this is the proposed leaching field is, oops, sorry.
The two large rectangles in the front.
Yeah, stippled or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
These
And those are
right
both
here.
active, right? Those are live.
Those are the two proposed ones.
Yeah.
And the old one is
In the
back here.
That's correct.
I mean, they're both live, they're not reserved, they're both gonna be used.
So they'll be under the parking lot, the leach fields.
Yes.
And almost onto Elm Street, yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you.
And then also, it's shown in the yellow is the snow storage, and we've located all of those outside the 50-foot buffer zone.
I can't, on the yellow,
Yeah,
it seems like
So
a
there's-
bunch of
there's al-
yellow going on.
Yeah, there's some conflicts there's some plans that, between the site plan and the landscape plan, they show different snow storage areas. And I think this one actually,
yeah, so this is the proposed location shown on the site plans. So this is shown outside the 50-foot.
yeah,
The back one's not outside the 50, though, is it?
It is.
so it is on this plan.
So there's
Oh, yes. No. Yeah. Right at the 50.
Right at the-
Yeah. Now I'll turn it over to Vesna.
We want to, well, go ahead.
Yeah, we can get into that. We'll collect everything at the end.
See, there's actually a nicer landscape plan. We saved it for Vesna to be able to show.
Thank
Yeah, they're to the last slide or something like that, perhaps. I'll just click through them maybe.
Yeah, if you can just move on to the.
Yeah.
So why they're not,
You think that's the last plan, or is it further
Uh,
down in the deck?
It looks like you're not moving off of this one.
yeah, let's, let me just see what.
Might have to zoom out.
Oh, yeah, that, it's probably hung up because of that.
So, yeah, landscape there, 12.
Hello, good evening. My name is Vesna Maneva. I'm a senior landscape architect at Halverson Tanbond Studio. And tonight we're presenting the planting plan.
this version that you see in front of you is a colorized version of the black and white plan that was submitted in the package. We thought it would be a little bit easier to see. And we have bumped up all the resource line, all the buffer zones, just for discussion purposes. And I think the next plan, or was there another Android version? It may have been.
That's the zoomed in one. So we can, if you want to zoom in a little bit more, maybe it'll be,
Okay.
does that help? Yeah.
But this is fine. So there was one that had some plant lists on it. But nevertheless, so the approach that we have taken was, we know that there will be pavement that is being removed, and that area between the new curb line and the existing tree line, which is being retained, we consider it as its own zone. So that is within the 100-foot buffer area, and it's shown as kind of a cream yellow color here on this plan with some dots on it. And for that area, we are proposing just a couple of different trees. All the species that we are proposing are native, so no cultivars, so there will be a conservation grade. There will be, we have emelank here, serviceberry, we have red oak, and then for the shrubs, we have aronia, which is brilliant chokeberry, hemamelis virginiana, witch hazel, spirea, meadowsweet, and viburnum nudum, which is wither rod. And they're all, the area that you see there, it's full sun. North is up on the plan, so these are all plants that we think will do well in that area. Then when you see with kind of like a minty green, we have a different plant list for the bioswales as well, and that will be a combination of shrubs and some native grasses and native perennials. Winter interest was important, so we are showing some Ilex glabra, which will be evergreen, that's inkberry holly, winterberry holly, which will have the berries for looks and also as a wildlife value, and the Rhodosia dogwood with the red canes. It's also has both ecological role as well as having some aesthetic role. And then the third category of planting list that we have is the general landscape, which is the front of house, everything that is outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. Again, we are going with native species. We chose some that we know can be tolerant of, urban conditions, or like a parking lot conditions, really. So for the trees, we have red maple and tupelo. And then for ornamental trees, we have another species of emelank here, serviceberry, and American hornbeam, and then a variety of shrubs. The frontage will also have some perennials and ornamental grasses, just to make call attention to this new development. Right now it's just lawn in the front. This will be much more engaging for people that are driving down Elm Street, and more inviting to get into this new development. Oh, I also wanted to mention there is an existing vegetation along the front, along the edge with the hotel next door, that is shown with kind of like a bubble, gray-green bubble. Those are going to stay, and then we are planting the part in front, which is currently, I believe, just pavement. That will be planted with shrubs that are not too tall, so there is some visibility between the two, but it's screening the cars.
The hedgerow to the back of the property seems to be in pretty good shape, where the front ones are a little bit more compromised with weeds and different things. That we take that, we replace those up front.
Okay.
So I did include your kind of the plant materials on the next few slides, just to give
Okay.
graphic representation of what the photo, or more photo representation of what the plants are. So that's your restoration in the back.
That's right, yeah.
That's the swales.
So we're going for a lot of diversity of species, which is very important. But these are also tried and true. Sort of, we know that they're going to work because we've used them on many projects, and they're not things that require a lot of maintenance. So everything requires maintenance, but these are the kind of trees and shrubs that retain a shape, or they provide a lot of pollinator value. That's when aesthetic value is important too.
And Vesna, could you just talk a little about the maintenance schedule for, besides the woody planting, just the meadow, grassy, and bioswale is the typical maintenance scheme?
Yeah, so for the meadow areas, there is an establishment period for the meadows that we have chosen. The seed mixes are from New England Wetland Plants. That's a company in Western Massachusetts that really specializes in native plant materials. And they have a variety of seed mixes, and the ones that we chose, the Upland Restoration seed mix, has a lot of grasses and a few forbs, and the reason for that is because we know that it's probably going to need to be mowed more frequently, hearing that there is some invasive species in the area, and that will be a good way to control them. The establishment period is 3 years usually. The first year, the mowing schedule will be, we can provide a specification to clarify that, but usually there is a mowing schedule like every 4 to 6 weeks the first year. The second year is less, and then once the meadow is established, that mowing can happen once a year.
Good. Okay.
If you'd like, I mean, it was presented in the narrative here, the accompanying the notice, which classically. And we can drill down into that, or if you've read it and you understand it, that we don't need to elaborate, but it is a net reduction. Each of the categorical areas, the buffer zone, inner, outer, and the outer riverfront area, we reduce across the board by 100% in the 25-hour impervious surface, 61% in the 25 to 50, and 20% in the 50 to 100, and 42% in the riverfront area reduction in pavement or thereabouts for all these categories. So it meets the redevelopment standards. They have a kind of an obscure, ill-defined net improvement. The phraseology we quoted in here always kind of surprised me that they didn't elaborate in writing the regulation to provide an improvement over existing conditions, which
Very vague.
Yeah, that's a kind of a vague threshold. I think we've, regardless of where you draw that line, I think we've exceeded that. We've retracted on all fronts, and we have a net reduced impervious, and we have a lot more green space, reduced heat absorption and that sort of thing.
I think that we do need to request a waiver at when we
Yeah.
get some feedback, but I think it's what mostly for like the flared in sections that we're really just repairing.
And we should discuss that tonight.
Waivers in the 25 and 50.
Yeah, we got Bert's email points there. Go ahead, Delia.
Not the 50 though, because there's no new developments.
Oh, okay.
Right, there's no new structure going into the 50, so but anything in the 25.
And can we go through this just because our plan was kind of to gather your feedback here, then go back to the
Perfect.
drawing board, revise this and try to do it once, and hopefully, have this prepared in advance of the next hearing and, ideally put this to bed, but.
Well,
So
there's
what
a
about the
little bit
plan?
more,
Oh,
the
peer
drainage is
review
being
the plan for the
reviewed and-
stormwater, yeah.
I mean, there's, so,
That's
have you
still,
gone to planning yet?
No.
oh, that's.
So
September, right?
usually we kind of wait
Do an
until you.
introductory, then you'll
Yeah.
go to the planning board and hear,
That's right.
That way, so you don't have to come back again as you make changes at the other boards.
right,
Yeah, they've initiated a peer review, a screening or whatever, but it's not in place yet.
Yeah, so it's out to bid for
Okay.
consultants.
Okay.
the peer review is for what?
So both stormwater and for traffic.
Oh, so stormwater is going out too, okay.
Yeah.
Right, So do you know when you're scheduled for the planning board?
9/12.
Okay. Okay. Right, so
Yeah,
after
so
you have that sort of resolved and the stormwater's been reviewed and.
Yeah. We'll see you again.
come back to us.
Okay. Well,
But you can continue out to the 20th and then just keep continuing
Sure.
Yeah,
until.
that's probably a safe,
Yeah.
safe bet in case everything just clicks, which.
Right.
Doesn't usually happen.
Sometimes that happens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd rather be on the good side of that surprise than on the bad
Right.
side.
Yeah.
But just while we're making our plans, in the interval between now and, the planning board's findings, Bert sent us, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bullet points, and I want to make sure we understand and are ready to address them if we could.
Please. Yeah.
And, point 1 was, storage areas, snow storage is within 50 feet, and we should retract that from there. And are we now in a position where all of our
Yes, all the snow storage is outside of 50 feet.
has this been amended?
Yeah, so it's the planting plan, so there
Yeah, so this was-
discrepancy, so on the planting
That may have
plan,
been
it
an
showed
older,
one
yeah.
snow storage
Yeah.
area.
Right,
So we're
that
good.
went up in the
So
right
you can probably
hand.
just remove it from the planting plan and just leave it on
Yeah.
the.
We will
Yeah,
remove
that's
it
more
from the
appropriate.
planting plan. Mhm.
There were some discrepancies between
Mhm.
the planting plan and the site civil.
And then while we're on that point, one of the notations here, size of the snow storage areas. Do we feel it's
So
adequate?
there's more shown on the civil plans.
Okay.
But the concern that I have is that a lot of that snow storage is in landscapes. On landscaped islands and.
Yeah, so I mean, it really depends on the size of the storm. So if we get
Right.
walloped, like last winter, there was absolutely really nothing.
Right.
So if it becomes a heavy snow event, well, we work, obviously across the state, New England, we used to snow. So, what they'll do is they'll push it into a pile in the corner of a parking lot, but then throughout the day, they'll schedule to get hauled off. So.
Right, and that's just something that the commission typically includes as a special condition. So if you identify no storage areas on the plan that either are too small for a storm or they're not practical for the operator to actually plow snow into that location, which you have to also consider, then anything that's outside of those identified areas has to be hauled off site.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if they are in landscaping areas, right, if they happen to be there, then you get another snow event. How do you take them off that landscape area as you're, taking some away in preparation for
Yeah, so
another
what
event?
they would do is if it's a big event, in this site, they would push it to the back and then kind of stockpile it there and then move it off. So we can just show the site where they can.
Yeah, I mean, I think there needs to be a little bit more thought about the snow storage locations, because if it gets, I don't think it's being shown right now as being pushed to the back of the site. And you want to be careful about that bioswale too. You don't want it to be pushed into.
Yeah, so
the
small
bioswale.
events like Brandon has
Yeah.
shown,
Oh, sure.
you just
Yeah.
kind of
Oh,
push it
for
to the
sure.
side of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
site,
right.
Yeah,
all
yeah.
around as much as you can, but as it becomes voluminous, you start pushing it to the back, you manage it, and then you haul it out. So they, if it's a big storm, they could bring in a bucket loader and kind of move it that way. Plows can only do so much.
Sure, right, you'd have to load it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so I guess as you rethink that, just give some consideration to those issues, right?
Right.
Accessibility, size,
Landscaped areas.
landscaped areas
Right.
would like to be avoided.
And point 2 was invasive species management outside or within the bioswale and I guess the naturalized meadow there, which knotweed is going to be problematic. It's going to be sending roots through there pretty
Aggressively.
rest of eternity. Yeah, and it is an aggressive stolen creeper. We would probably ideally would be to nip it in the bud with very acute spraying in the spring or whenever it starts to sprout. Would be if it becomes problematic, if it starts to invade the bioswale area. Bioswale probably not so much, but the meadow around it I think might be problematic. And we can, I mean, that could be mowed to some extent to control it, but Vesta, would you agree that spot application might be the prudent or I just thought, I mean, you're the professional, but maybe a butyl rubber or some kind of plastic barrier to discourage the root creep from the periphery. Is that
For not with that's beyond my personal expertise, I think, I hear that it's a very difficult one to control without herbicides.
Right,
Yeah.
so it'll grow through asphalt, so,
That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
you know, so the barriers are not effective
Mm.
and, you know, herbicide is the only
Yeah.
effective way that I've seen that will control it.
If it's got on early, it probably is manageable. Scott's an applicator with
Yep.
me, and he's got a perennial project down in Marshfield that probably be going for, it's shrinking, but it's, it's not a 2-year enterprise. It's
Right,
on you, but it was about 1.5 acres of pure monocultures.
so how big is this knotweed infestation? What area are we talking about? do you
Most,
think?
probably 2/3 of the periphery of this is probably not weeded to some extent or another,
Yeah.
I mean, right now you can't see the river. When you stand there, it's just green because it's a total screen of knotweed. So, but in the spring, you can see the water.
Right. Because typically, the commission doesn't allow spraying,
Well, yeah.
which can be problematic. I mean, it's been approved in the past.
Yep. Certain
For
conditions.
larger infestation, so, I mean, if it's reasonable to do a stem injection, then, think about that, but so.
In the created area, it's probably, as long as it's addressed at an early stage, it's probably practical to do it at that level, I think, but, I should let Bess know.
Right, so.
Authorize
just
whatever.
Something to think
So we'll
about.
need a narrative on how you
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
approach that in
On a
that
management
area.
scheme, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we know what to do. Additional parking spaces, I think we're mandated, but we're at the threshold now for parking planning board approval.
No,
So,
not 5.
Well, so there's two options. Right now, we don't have a third tenant in coming from the left, the third tenant. So one potentially would be a restaurant, which would require us to be at 115 spaces.
So if you could, when you say the third space, I'm not sure, is that
Third from
one of the
the-
larger spaces or
Yeah.
the smaller
it was
spaces?
just for that section.
So the one that is currently proposed is the urgent care, or is
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what they're saying.
The bank, urgent care, and these are just prospective.
restaurant, coffee shop?
Restaurant, coffee shop, yeah.
So it's fair to say that, and again, this is more planning, but just for edification, the retail uses here are suggestions at this point.
We have no leases signed.
Yeah.
We have LOIs signed for 3 out of the 4 tenants.
And one case could be, and I know it's whatever the tenants are, but just hypothetically, they could all be restaurants by way of zoning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not, retail's not allowed, but all the uses that we're proposing are by right.
Okay. And is that why you feel you need that kind of parking level of 115 versus 95?
Well, yeah, that's the requirement for a restaurant to get to that level.
Mm-hmm. And what if it ends up being, what if it's not a restaurant at the end of the day? What if it's more benign in terms of a parking requirement?
Well, I mean, we would really prefer to have the level of parking that we show there to have the flexibility.
The leases expire eventually, and
Mhm.
you wouldn't want to have to come back here and say, well, now we're gonna
So
add parking spaces.
granted, we've integrated a grease trap for that third unit.
Yeah.
To have that flexibility to go, with a restaurant in that location, just do it now. We don't know when that lease will be signed. It's obviously a challenging market for restaurants. It's challenging for retail too, but.
What about reserve spaces?
Yeah. Again, you've got some parking back here, right, which is really touching on the back side here, right? For example, right, some of those spaces. The question is, could you allocate that area for future parking, but not necessarily build it initially and keep it permeable? And if you need the spaces and you come back and say, this is why we need them, simple justification, we sign a restaurant. They're gonna have X amount of patrons, tables, seats. And we want to, finish or supplement the parking at that level.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the challenges we're showing, this plan to the tenants and, kind of the expectations, some of them are actually pretty robust parking users, particularly the smaller tenants that happen to be the restaurants and the coffee. I think they're looking for the number of parking spaces. They're gonna have employees. It is not, there's no drive-through on here, so everything is park and walk in.
I thought the bank
For the
was,
bank drive, but for the,
It's
like,
just
oh, for the,
it's like
Right.
packed and no
Okay.
drive-throughs allowed.
Right.
Mothers with twins in the backseat have to get out and go together.
Yeah, understand coffee shops usually drive a high parking ratio.
Yeah.
But a 2,400 square foot restaurant, you know, with back of the house and kitchen, how many seats are there really at the end of the day? I mean, I'm just trying to, and again, it's really not our purview, but it's just trying to understand the need for the asphalt and the parking.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've done our, tried to work hard to reduce significantly and put the landscape in place.
Yeah, and I think it's just our simple suggestion that if some of the parking that's close to the resource area could be held in reserve a little bit, understand your tenants are looking for it, but if they come and actually sign a lease and you say, look, now we need those spaces because we have 2 restaurants and here's the seat count, then it could be, sure, that would make sense to build those out. But if that falls away, and again, these are interim conditions perhaps, but you may not need all that parking if the lease plays out differently.
Right.
That's all. So for consideration there, if you could think about that, that would be appreciated.
Waiver request, I think so we don't need for the 25, but we will want one for the 50.
Other way.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I
Oh,
agree.
yeah, the flared end, yeah. Flared end. There's no new structural elements in the 25 and 50, but not a
Nothing new.
new area with structural elements.
Right.
And lastly, the rain garden, I think where it says it extends, and I'm not sure if it's a rain garden or the bioswale.
It was the rain garden. It was over. Yep. This side. So it looks like it.
Oh, yeah.
So the small, Gary and Sarah, the small rectangular rain garden, I don't know if it's back.
Yeah.
Let's put it back up so they can see it and anybody else can see it online.
Internally, I think we think that's not a particularly egregious stretch, given the overall retraction and the market improvement in stormwater, and it's a stormwater and amenity. It's not a convenience, if you will, but. Yeah.
On the left, the triangle.
Yep.
Okay, so this is the one that's outside of the,
So it's within the existing edge of pavement. The comment is that you see the blue line. See the blue line that goes right through it. So the blue line is the existing edge of pavement, purple line being the proposed edge of pavement. To provide an adequate size for the rain garden, it just goes just outside the existing edge of pavement and into the existing lawn area by about 3 feet. If we were to slide it to the right, that would reduce the berm from the curb to the top of the rain garden. We would like to hold a 5-foot berm that allows for the 12-inch river stone that goes along the edge. And it just creates a nice berm before the elevation drops. So I think that's an appropriate size and location. It's not within the 25-foot buffer zone. It's just within existing lawn area.
Looks like it's gonna have 25.
it's right at the edge and it's
Yeah.
in the no build zone, but.
Yeah, I mean, you could back it up a little bit, couldn't you?
You can reduce it if that makes sense.
It's pretty small anyway, the
Yeah.
rain garden.
Or just
The
eliminate it.
slopes is not,
Yeah, I mean,
So the 25-foot buffer is the green line?
Yep.
Correct.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, if you want us to reduce the berm, from 5 feet to 2 feet. And then, so you just have the riverbed and a river stone, and then it stops dropping. I mean, it's not a very deep, rain garden. I think it's about 18 inches deep, so.
so what sort of volume is it treating?
Within that, parking area.
Yeah.
And I have the volume.
Well,
It's treats to 1 inch over the impervious area.
1 inch
Over that immediate parking area. Right,
Yes.
yeah.
for the 2-year.
Just a 1 inch over
One-
the area, the water quality volume.
I mean, it's, yeah.
I think there's so much improvement.
Yeah.
Overall that,
Okay.
you know, I.
Yeah.
I-
Right on the border.
Right on the border.
Okay.
There is this one. So I can't remember which plan.
That's kind of on the border too.
Yeah.
The,
It's at the-
the bioswale proper as well too.
Yes,
Coming down.
Well,
The asphalt goes down over the hill there, if you see the
Right.
blue
I
line,
see.
yeah,
I
where you're
see.
going now,
Okay.
the asphalt actually goes almost all the way down to the base where
So you just need to
Roseville
bring,
goes there now.
you just need to bring those erosion controls out around, because you're taking that out. So if you could just show the erosion controls around that existing one. And I think rather than, I think it was on the landscape plan, it talks about jute netting to stabilize that. And I know it's a steep slope, but if you can use, the jute netting is, we see a lot of problems with that, with just trapping wildlife, you know, frogs. And
But it'd be hemp jute, I mean, real jute, not the synthetic and
just
ground
that
stable.
square. I mean, have you used Flexterra or any bonded fiber matrix, which is like we used it at White Pond.
Yeah.
The restoration on the slopes there, and it's at least 2 to 1, if not steeper, that it's a bonded fiber matrix that's sprayed out with seed in it. Is very effective. So Flexterra, just if you want to take a look at that, they've got some demonstration videos which are kind of cool. You know, something like that.
Yeah.
I think would be really good.
Better application.
That's
Yeah.
like a sprayed, like it really like like when you're spraying the seed, that sort of thing, but it has a bonding agent in it, right? I think I
Exactly.
used it somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. I can't remember who did that study. There was was it out in Utah? They did this,
Yeah,
they
Utah.
compared like 3 or 4 of these bonded fiber matrix products, and they basically did like a storm through, you know, a rainfall through a grate on these products, you know, different types, and then did the runoff and looked at turbidity and, you know, runoff, just the volume of sediment that was coming off them. And this was an independent, you know, study that was done, and Flexterra was just, it was very high.
And it lets growth, I mean.
It does,
preferable for
you can
shoots.
add seed into it. Yep. So.
All right. Thank you, Gary.
Let's put down the
Excuse me.
jute anyway.
Gary, Sarah, any comments?
No, I mean, it looks like you've covered all the issues, so I look forward to seeing the final plans.
You good, Sarah?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, any public comment on the application this evening? It's just down to a couple. All right, don't see any. So you guys are good, if you will, continuing to the 20th, and you'll see what other boards have for you as you go.
You need a signature for that? For the
Nope.
continuum?
Nope. Well, thanks very much.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for the conversation.
Yep, have a good time. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Right.
Thanks, Justin.
Yeah, give my best to Jamie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, let's see. Other business. I believe excuse me, certificate extension request, Concord Green.
Yes.
Hello, I'm Sonia. I'm the property manager of Concord Green. And I'm here to request an extension of the original plan, the DEP 1371475.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not able to, I do not have the technology to mark up the maps that Delia supplied for us, or that actually were part of the original plan. So I did it the old fashioned way with marker and a key, which Delia does have with her. We have approximately 10 remaining plants to get in the ground, and we're looking to do that over the next 3 years, along with a 15, excuse me, I'm just looking at my notes. 12 replacements. In addition, 12 replacements of plants that we did plant that actually died. It's hard to believe that a year ago we were in a terrible drought. But a lot of the plants that we planted did not survive. I shouldn't say a lot because percentage wise, it's not bad. But we do need to get those in. And in addition to that, we do have some trees that were deemed as in poor condition that remain in poor condition, and we have chosen not to remove them. But there are about 3, I'm going to say 2.5, that in my opinion, if you do give us a 3-year extension, most likely will need to be removed within the next 3 years.
All right. And do those, as you remove trees, do they get replaced in kind, or what's the kind of the process?
So there was a planting plan that was developed as part of this 2019 permit, and I don't know, Sonia, whether there was a number of specific plants, you know, trees and shrubs that were identified on the plan. But maybe, I don't know, Sonia, how do you guys choose, you know, as you're going through and you're putting in where there's those additional tree removals, what plants will you choose to replace them with?
Well, we'll obviously look at the location. Like one of the trees that is failing rather quickly is a sugar maple on the shore of the pond behind building 19, basically. And that tree, I mean, we would not be able to replace it right exactly where we remove it. There's another white pine in that same general area that most likely will have to come down. So we'll probably, we'll use the key that was approved originally with the original plan and plant off of that list.
I was curious, this building 19, is that sugar maples?
Well, it's either tree 10,012 or
Okay.
I'm not sure which one it is exactly. I'm actually going out there tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Okay. I think because I had seen some circles circling a couple of the trees, and I thought, well, there's a purple circle there. And,
yes.
Yeah.
I have to look at the legend. These were the notes that Sonia
That's
had
fine.
made on the plan. Either those were ones to be replaced. I think the purple was to be replaced, so
Gotcha.
you're right.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Gary, Sarah? Comments on extension of the work?
A plan that's already approved, so it's just an extension. I think they're almost done, so let's get it done right.
Yeah, agree.
All right. Any public comment regarding the proposed extension? All right, well, seeing none, could I have a motion for the extension?
I move that we grant an 3-year extension to the permit which was assigned to 1024 Main Street, DEP file 1371475.
Second.
Thank you, Gary. And the vote, Gary?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you very much. You guys have a nice night.
Yeah, good luck with the project.
Sonia, I'll see you tomorrow.
Yes, you will.
All right. COCs. We have 2 of them.
Yes, the first one is for Mr. Bailey, Mr. and Mrs. Bailey at 460 Garfield Road.
Yep.
And the second is for a house demo, septic replacement, and driveway project that was fairly old one from 137-795, and we have everything that we need for those, and they're good to go.
Great. You're probably gonna do a combined motion?
Sure. I move that we issue COCs for DEP file 137795 at 96 Old Bedford Road and for 137127 at 460 Garfield Road.
Second.
Thank you, Sarah. Gary?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. All right, that's the COCs. I think we're down to one thing, right?
Yes.
Hayward Meadow Stewardship Committee appointment.
Two things, right?
Oh, two things. Yes, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yes, so David Bell has expressed interest in serving on the Haywood Meadow Stewardship Committee. He has previously served on the CR Stewardship Committee. He's been to a couple of meetings and the committee is very excited to get him on board.
Great.
Yeah.
We need a motion for this. Yep.
To
So
recommend approval to the select board for his.
So I move we nominate David Bell of 1657 Monument Street for a term to the Haywood Meadow Stewardship Committee to expire on May 31st, 2024.
all right, in the vote, Gary,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
and I am an I as well. And last item.
Is this is an after the fact administrative approval. This was to allow the installation of those 2 water bars at West Concord Park. And do the slope grading there. So I thought it was more important to get the work done sooner rather than later with all these heavy rains
yeah.
that we've been experiencing. So I apologize that it's after the fact.
No, thanks.
The water bars are in the 100-foot buffer zone, and they were very careful about how they were installed.
Proactive is good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
And with that, we're adjourned. Thank you, guys.